Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Firestone Williams Report.
Yeah, welcome to the Firestone Williams Report. This is actually our first show. Okay, welcome to the Firestone Williams Report again. Okay, welcome to the Firestone Williams Report.
You have some feedback on that, Teresa. So what you need to do, Teresa, is you need to turn down the volume on your, so you don't hear it, and the show will go up normally. You've got an echo there. So just turn down your volume. So your speakers are not on, but your microphone is on.
Okay, so
Turn down your volume to 0, but your microphone continues. All right, so that you're not hearing the feedback.
okay, so hopefully we're live now for real.
Yeah, hopefully we're live for real.
This is our first show with the Firestone Williams Report. Now we renamed it due to a change in our host. But as you can tell, there is no William in the room, if you know his voice.
Yeah, Scott is not here today. Scott Williams is our new co-host. He'll be here for the next show. This is a special show, and Theresa's our guest host, Theresia Scholtes, at TCL Scholtes on Twitter. And tell people more about yourself, Theresia.
Well, I actually work for Exploring.org, the not-for-profit organization that now will host the Firestone Williams Report.
I think Williams is plural.
It is plural. Firestone Williams Report.
You'll get used to it.
Yeah. It's hard. We still say Firestone Clark, and we still write
we miss her. We miss her.
We do miss her.
I mean, Jennifer's the angel who's been doing the show forever, and we miss her. And as you know from the last show, Theresia, Jennifer told everybody that she's having a baby, and so we'll forgive her just this once.
Yeah. So my name's Theresia Scholtes, and that's Scholtes. My first name's actually spelled differently too.
Oh yeah. Nobody will know you.
No one knows. So my first name actually is Dutch. It's spelled with an I, so it's Theresia. So it's a little different.
So it's Theresia.
Yes.
But nobody calls you that.
No, my parents did me a huge favor and just decided to call me Teresa.
Okay.
To make it complicated.
All right. And so, I mean, your Twitter handle is so easy to remember, at TCL Scholtes. TCLSCHOLTES. What could be easier?
Yeah.
Couldn't you have been like Betty Smith?
Well, I tell people that I can't wait to get married to get a new last name.
Oh, is that right? Have you talked to your boyfriend about that?
That's my username.
I hope he's not listening.
Yeah, probably not. But today we have a special episode. Normally we talk a lot about entrepreneurship and talk to big company owners that are doing big things in Ottawa. So today we're talking to someone who doesn't do anything in Ottawa.
Right.
Exactly. We've turned the table a little bit. Normally Bruce is the host with now Scott Williams from Ibero Marketing and Communications. But today we're actually going to be interviewing him, Bruce Firestone, as well as his editor, Murray McGregor.
Hi, Murray.
Murray's here.
Hi.
Are you tired, Murray? We need a little more energy here.
No, I was just sitting here beside Teresa thinking,
maybe she'd like to marry me. McGregor's a really nice last name.
It's a lovely name, yeah. All right, well, the answer is, I would say no.
Let her think about
All
it.
right.
For the next
Think
show.
We
about
have an hour.
Okay, she thought about it. No.
So we have a special show today. We're talking all about Quantum Entity,
Right.
which is a new novel written by Bruce Firestone. And Murray McGregor was his very patient editor, I would say.
I would say.
And Murray, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
All editors are patient.
Yeah.
Yes. Murray McGregor. Okay, that's me. I've been editing probably about 15 years now. I also do some writing, and in previous lives, I owned a bookstore. I worked on national radio in current affairs in my journalism days, and
CBO, I think, was it not?
Hmm?
CBO Radio?
CBC Network.
Oh,
yeah.
you're on the network.
I was
Okay.
living in Toronto at the time, so
Right.
instead of here in Ottawa, so we're working out of the National Radio Building, which is long since gone now. I think it's a ballet school in Toronto,
All right.
but that's another story. I've also spent a few years in the film industry and as a technician.
Nice.
So I'm an all-around media guy. Can I call myself that? I've never thought of that before. But I guess that's sums it up.
Hey,
Yeah.
Teresa,
Yeah.
what makes a great writer? Oh, you're supposed to say, I don't know.
What's the secret? I don't know.
What makes a great writer is a great editor.
Is a great editor.
I didn't want to jump in there. It was just too.
Yeah,
I
a little self-serving
yeah.
there, right?
One thing about editors is we tend to be serious introverts, so we sort of stay in front of our computers for hours at a time and are not assertive. No, we're assertive with our authors when it comes to grammar and things like that.
Right. So how did you guys get linked up?
Gosh, we've known each other forever.
Many years, yeah. I did some work for Explorium way back in 2004.
Oh my gosh. Ancient history.
Ancient history, yeah. That's 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I think we met before that.
I think we did, and
I honestly can't remember where. Now it's the question's asked.
You actually know me well enough to know I don't remember what I did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive right into Quantum Entity. Why don't you, Bruce, introduce us to Quantum Entity, a little bit about the book.
How long is the show, Teresa?
An hour. We only have, this is the thing, I only have 5 questions because I know each answer will be 20 minutes each.
Oh, that's mean.
Just kidding.
Okay.
So let's talk first about just a little bit, a blurb about Quantum Entity without reading the back of the book you have beside you.
I think I know it.
Yeah.
I could probably do it, off by heart.
And a little bit about maybe the main characters, just a little bit.
All right. So let me just go back a step, and I'll tell you and the audience what I had in my mind. I retired from the University of Ottawa last year. I turned 60 in December of 2011, and I left the Tupper School of Management, even though I loved every minute of it. And really, in my career, my professional career, there's probably been 3 things that I really have loved the most. One was the Bring Back the Senators campaign. The other was teaching, doing research and writing. And the third one was getting ready to, and then finally writing Quantum Entity. And I said to my dean that I was going to retire because I was turning 60, and I wanted to retire before I wanted to retire, if that makes any sense, Teresa. And I didn't want to be like the heavyweight champion, waiting to be knocked out 3 or 4 times before he finally hangs up the gloves.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to retire before I wanted to retire while I think I was still being a productive member of the faculty. And I also wanted to try my hand at a great story, or what I hoped would be a great story. And, well, I was still young enough to do it. At 60, you're still young enough, I think, to do new things and still be creative and hopefully interesting. And I had in mind, writing the story, I just don't want to wake up one day and be 70 and have done exactly the same things for the last 10 years as I did for the previous 10 years. So that kind of sets the stage. And so I storyboarded Quantum Entity, We Are All One, which is the first book of the trilogy, over a period of about 8.5 months. And then last summer, really in June and July of a little bit of August, in a 5.5-week mad rush, I actually penned the first edition, or the first version of the manuscript. And, for me, I have been a writer, quite prolific, in fact, but never have written a novel. And this novel was complicated because it had not one, not two, but 5 themes in it. It has science and science fiction in it. It has a business story in it. It has a love story. You can't have a novel without a love story, especially if you're a romantic like I am. It has action and adventure, and it has a lot of the politics and the law. And it's a story set in mid-21st century, and it introduces 3 main characters, Damien Bell, Nell, who's a performance artist from California, and Ellen Brooks, who is a biz whiz from Elmira College in upstate New York. And Damien himself is a physicist and engineer, and he is about to release a new phone. It's kind of based on the iPhone 40. It's a hacked iPhone 40, and it involves quantum communication, which will disintermediate established characters like AT&T, Verizon, and others. So he's going to gore a few oxes, but it also introduces these new artificial intelligence creatures called quantum entities. Okay.
All right, so there's Damien Bell.
Right.
Is one of the main characters, and then
Nell and Ellen.
Yeah. Those are the 3. Okay, so where did the whole idea of creating a novel come from? I know you wanted to do something. You say often. I work with Bruce, or for Bruce, so
with us.
I hear from him a lot. So I know a lot about the book. I've read it. I was one of the few advanced readers, so that was really special for me. And you say, never retire, always do something after retirement. Right. Don't let your mind escape itself, basically.
Right.
So why did you want to write a novel?
Well, part of it was I've been a storyteller all my life, and I wanted to try my hand at it. But when you have 5 themes, like I just said, and then unexpectedly, I didn't expect it, but a 6th theme kind of came out of the work, it becomes a spiritual and almost mystical novel as well. There's a lot of spirituality in it, I think. So, it was a personal challenge. And my dad said to me before he passed away, you should never retire. That you can change what you do as you get older, but how much golf do you really want to play? Golf's a nice game, I suppose, but how much TV do you want to watch? How much beer do you want to drink? So even if you had a pot full of money, really, I think it's important to be active, and this was something I really wanted to do, and I wasn't sure if I could do it. I know I'm a good professional writer, but the novel writing is quite different, and my friend Sharon Buckingham, who you know.
She was on the show, actually.
She was on the show, exactly. She told me that the key to great writing at this level was the rewrite, something I didn't want to hear. And
we'll get to that.
And now that we're almost ready to publish the thing, it'll be published on June 20th, so next month, at Artifacts. The gala will actually become available officially. I think it's probably between Murray and I, and it's probably gone through 20 rewrites.
Okay, so the story holds 5 themes.
Right.
I've read it, so I know a lot about it. It's very detailed. It's very complex.
Right.
It is an easy read, but it isn't an easy read.
Yeah.
And it takes you through a really awesome adventure. But where did the storyline come from?
All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Murray in a second here to comment on it, because Murray, when he first started reading it, thought, holy smokes, what is this novel? Then when he got to know it a little bit better, and of course he improved it tremendously. It is definitely a better product now than it was a year ago. What we had was what he calls a learning outcome novel.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that was, and we're going to let Murray talk about that in a second. But let me go back to I think it was the 1980s. When I was a young fellow, and I was watching, and I didn't watch a lot of TV. I have 5 kids and a pretty busy life in many ways, but I watched the occasional show of Dallas. Dallas was about, big oil executive. I think his name was J.R. Ewing. He had the Texas hat, and he ran this huge company. And you would go, Teresa, you and Murray would come into J.R.'s office at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he would turn and say, what do you want, bourbon or scotch? And even then, in my 20s, I kind of asked the question, really, do CEOs drink at 10 o'clock in the morning, CEOs of big companies? And none of the CEOs that I knew then and have known since, spend their days drinking alcohol in the office. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some that do, but the successful ones absolutely do not. So right from then, I realized that people who write novels, people who write scripts for television or for film, many of them do not really know anything about business. So I thought I could actually tell a business story. So I told the business story because I actually know something about business and about entrepreneurship and about startups. So I told, what is it like to conceive, found, grow, and defend a world-spanning tech business? So when people finish this novel, they'll actually know something about it. So, Murray, what is a learning outcome novel?
Good question.
We also have a caller on the line, so...
Well, do you want to take the caller?
Yeah.
We'll answer the caller, and then we'll come back to Murray.
Sure.
All right, who's the caller?
Okay, I don't know. Let's see.
Hold your answer.
Yep.
I just want to turn our volume up. We had some problems with our volume before, so we can hear them.
Yeah, that would be good.
All right.
Hello? So, caller, do you have a question for us? There's just a time lag. You'll get to you'll hear it. We'll try for 30 seconds. Hi.
All right, well, we'll hang up and try again.
All right. So,
listen,
to the caller out there, what you should do, turn off your speaker there.
Yeah.
So we apologize. We're having some feedback problems. So what we have now, if you don't mind me, we have somebody submitting their question through Twitter. So if you want to ask a question for this show, just because it looks like we're having some feedback problems with Blog Talk Radio, we're going to sue you after this show, Blog Talk. You can submit them to either at TCL Scholtes or at Prof. Bruce, which is me. So here we have a question from Saad Rashid, at Saad Rashid. At Prof. Bruce, I called in because I had some technical difficulties with the live feed. Well, Saad, give us your question. So send me your question, Saad, by Twitter, and we'll answer it through Twitter. Murray, I interrupted you, and I feel bad.
No, that's okay. The question was, what is a learning outcome novel? It comes back to, it was sort of a phrase I pulled out of the air one afternoon when I was trying to define myself what this book is. And because there's so many themes running through it, especially the business theme and the entrepreneurial theme, it was, as an editor, I think, how do we integrate that material into the storyline and make everything flow? And it was a challenge. It was a challenge for me. It was a challenge for me because I'd never done it before.
Right.
Well, you told me that
it wasn't just taking a simple storyline and having that flow. You had multiple flows going, and that was my first suggestion was, well, maybe we can cut this down by 50% or something.
Oh my God! Stab me in the back next time.
Exactly. And no, that wasn't an option. And ultimately probably shouldn't have been an option, but that was my editorial experience, just looking at words,
right?
Paragraphs and flow. And so that was a challenge. It was a challenge that we worked out. And
how long did it take to adjust?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Where were you?
Where was it?
Halfway through, had to start over.
I think so.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't that far into it. But at that point, I had read. I read the first, or what we'll call the final draft before editorial.
Right.
Because there are drafts before that as well.
Oh my God.
We called that the January 3rd draft.
The January 3rd draft.
We did it by date.
Yeah,
We had
the January.
by minute.
Yeah. Well, I actually, you know what? That was the second reading through because I read the draft previous to that in December.
Right.
And just to look at the project and then I read the January 3rd draft and it was starting to work with that. You don't really, as an editor, at least I think this is. You know, my experience is you don't really work the problems out until you're working the problems out.
Right.
You can conceive of them, you can think about this.
Absolutely.
You can think about that, you can bounce ideas off yourself and off your writer or your author, but it's not until you actually get into the nitty-gritties of going through. And my first sort of look at the book was not to worry too much about the content, I would just look at the style.
Okay.
Because that's important from an editorial standpoint. Making sure that the style that comes out on page 2 is still there on page 52 and 152, so I concentrated on that as I started all the time thinking about this integration, making it more seamless, and that's where the kind of thought. Well, it's learning outcomes, and Prof. Bruce, to use his Twitter handle, wanted a certain look and a certain feel, and it was a matter of achieving that, and that's where the term came from. And I think
as soon as you caught onto it, it flowed nice.
Yeah, then when it catches onto it, then you can see how you can make it work.
Yeah.
As working with words and as I say, working with the details, I think, okay, this paragraph. This paragraph gets rewritten, then it flows into the next, the next idea that's more of a business idea from.
And on an editor's side of you, how important is it to really get have your heart in each project you do?
Well, that's a good question, Teresa.
Because this story, a lot of hearts are in this novel, from the editor to me to a lot of friends, family, your wife, Scott Williams, the marketing, everyone.
You can't not be in it.
Yeah.
You cannot be. You won't do a good job.
Yeah.
If you're just.
You don't get it.
Yeah. You're living in it. Okay, I'll make the statement. Living in a government town.
Yeah.
Where quite a lot of one's living is very sort of dry, turgid reports for somebody in the federal bureaucracy or some agency of the federal bureaucracy, and there are times when you can't get your mind into that. You're correcting grammar, you're making the thing flow.
Right.
But if you're doing a personal project like this, it is important because otherwise you got to start living the character. You got in the same way as the author lives with his characters. You've got to sort of move into the house.
Yes. Exactly.
You have your own room, but you're in the house and you're making the whole thing flow. Otherwise your work as an editor is just it just will never have that. Yeah. You've got to get into the flow. The flow is that wonderful Czechoslovakian fellow, whose name was way too long to pronounce. A book that he wrote in the 1990s called Flow. You have to be there. You have to be there, and if you're not there, you're not going to contribute what you can to the project, in a psychological sense. It's more than just grammar and rewriting bits and pieces.
So Bruce, how did you get your heart into it? Was it when you write when you're a kid? I think a lot of people like to write.
Yes. When
I was a kid, I loved to sit down at the computer and write stories, or even just tell my sister stories in bed or something like that.
Oh, nice.
It's I think a lot of kids like doing that. Maybe not. But I always thought that writing a book was kind of like living a second life. You can go and say what you want and do what you want and build this world. Yeah. So is that how you felt when you did it? Were you kind of escaping reality to a different world, or did you put it together? How did you form?
Well, I storyboarded the first novel. It is a trilogy, so there's 2 more books to come, and I haven't written book 2 or 3 yet, so just trying to finish one. But
you have storyboarded 2 and 3.
I have.
Which is important, so that the characters don't make something very strange in the next. But go ahead.
Thank you. My editor corrects me again. So, no, I mean, what happened was I storyboarded the novel over 8.5 months, And then, as I said earlier in the show, I wrote it in one 5.5-week mad dash, and, I try and do, kind of my day job. I do some real estate. I work with some great young people at explorium.org. I was teaching at the Telfer School of Management. I'm an impeccable husband and father. Well, that's a lie, but I try to be.
Yeah.
And so you try and do all the things that you're responsible for to your students, to the people that you work with at Explorium or the people I work with at Century 21, I have certain responsibilities also as the founder of the Ottawa Senators, if nothing else, to wave to people and say, go Sens, go. The routine I was keeping was kind of insane. It takes about 45 minutes, Theresia, to really get up to speed. So you can't really write a novel, I don't think, at least I couldn't, 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. Just to get into the characters and into the story and hopefully produce good, maybe even great writing, I hope, takes 45 minutes. So you even if you have 45 minutes, that's not going to work. So I would go home, spend some time with the family, and then they'd go to bed. I'd go to bed at 10 o'clock or whatever. And at 2, I would wake up, and I would work from 2 until 7 a.m.
Wow.
And I did that Monday to Thursday, and then at 7 a.m. I'd do a little bit of yoga, run on my treadmill, come into work, and do my best. And then on the weekends, I'd go home Friday night, be with the family. I would, crash at around 10. And then around 2 in the morning or 3 on Saturday morning, I would get up, and I would write from 3 o'clock Saturday morning until Monday morning at 7. And I wouldn't stop. I would sleep 10 minutes sometimes. Sometimes I might sleep 2 hours, but it was never more than 2 hours, and I just kept going. And in 5.5 weeks, I completed the first manuscript, which was what it was. It's a manuscript. So so I have a storyboard. I'm writing like a madman, and then some things happened. I found after a few days and a couple of weeks of doing it that I was at my keyboard in my little study. My wife and I have a small townhouse, and I was there at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm keyboarding, and I suddenly realized that I wasn't writing the story anymore, that I was channeling Damien and Nell and Ellen. And then even though I have a storyboard, like Murray was saying, all the way through to the end of the third novel, the third book in the trilogy, I would be writing and I would be channeling these characters, and I'm really taking dictation from these people, and the story would go 90 degrees. It would just go some places that I did not know it was going to go. It was a complete surprise to me. I didn't feel like I was writing it anymore. So you become very involved. These characters, many of them are, this is set in around 2050, so 40 years from now. Many of these characters are young people like you, Theresia, doing extraordinary things, and they become very strong characters. The other thing that happened, which was a complete surprise to me, was it was always in my mind that I would write book 1 from Damien's point of view, from the man's point of view, because I'm most comfortable with that. I went to an all-boys school, and I went to engineering school, which was might as well have been all guys. And then I lived in Australia for 7 years, and I spent that time really, again, all guys. So I kind of get the guy thing, and I really wanted to try and write some of it. Book 2, I thought, would be written from Ellen's point of view, but the female characters, Nell and Ellen, are such strong characters that about halfway through, maybe a little over halfway through, they really take over the novel. So one of the great things for me, it was a wonderful experience, was trying to understand a woman's point of view and then write from a woman's point of view, really for the last third of the novel. And whether I achieved that or not, I don't know, but it was a great experience.
Yeah. Well, now we know. I think one of the first questions people ask you when you say, "Oh, guess what? I wrote a book." They're like, "How did you find that time? How did you do it with everything else you do?" So, and I think you wrote a blog on that. Your actual schedule.
Yeah. I have a personal blog. It's non-commercial, called eqjournal.org. And it's a blog about really my interests, and I have a few guest articles on it, but it's really about urban economics, urban development, real estate. It's about business and entrepreneurship. It's about art and entrepreneurship. And, so it's got hundreds, maybe even a couple of thousand articles on it, and it's pretty well read, too. I have about 56 or 57,000 readers who regularly come and see what I have to say. So I'm quite proud of that too. So there's a lot about quantum entity there.
There
you
is a lot.
Go to eqjournal.org and put in the search bar quantum entity. You'll see some stuff on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just in the process, because I think it's important. Because if people, whenever how did you find to write a book? Which is always the question you get.
Right.
The flip side is in the writing process, the storyboard is really important, but your characters will take you where they take you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've got to have that flexibility, or you'll get caught. Because if you're just looking at your storyboard up, pinned up on the wall on a large piece of paper or something, and you don't realize that the characters just told you something that isn't there.
Right.
You got to start thinking about where that all fits in, and it's important, especially it's more important when you're writing a trilogy. More than once I asked you, I just said, this doesn't make any sense. Where are we going here?
Right.
And you said, well, we're going to big places in book 2 with this little section.
Well,
so then you look at it as an editor and say, okay, well, we got to keep it. So how do we just move through this and give some sort of hint that this is going to get back to be important, and that's
I tried to,
and that's where the storyboard's important. On the other hand, the character will. There's a writing philosophy where you just sit down and start to type.
I couldn't do that.
I don't know if I could either, but you do have to realize, and speaking to the audience, to realize that characters will take you where they take you.
I completely get that. And one of the things that I learned to do, I mean, Sharon Buckingham helped me with it, you helped me with it, and other people as well, is I learned the power of the rewrite. And not only to give it layering, Janet Golford helped me with that, not only to give it layering, depth, consistency, continuity, but the fact is, I channeled Agatha Christie too. Because what Agatha Christie would do with her novels, her mystery novels, is that once she has written them and she knows where she's going, it's all written, the manuscript is done, she would be able to go back and introduce clues as to how to unravel. One of the big mysteries of quantum entity is, where did Damien Bell put the quantum key? And the quantum key is key to creating these artificial entities, because these entities are not just the AI that you might see, say, in the iPhone 4S in Siri. The central question will become, at what point does an artificially intelligent creature acquire human rights? And that's a big part of the politics and the law that comes into it. In fact, there's a whole chapter based in front of the Supreme Court of the United States where they're trying to make a determination at what point would an artificially intelligent creature have human rights. And so, I was able to put into quantum entity, through the rewrite process, a bunch of clues, so that if a discerning reader ever really was determined to try and solve some of the mysteries, such as where did Damien hide the quantum key, they might actually be able to find it. Not easy, but they might.
They might. I know where it is. I'm not telling.
You want to die?
So as an editor, how many times did you read the manuscript, do you think? How many times did you go over it?
That's impossible. Well, you know what, I was going to say it's impossible to say, and it is, because of course I read a lot of it in bits and pieces, and then my final read through is by piecemeal and backwards. In other words, I read in that third week of March, I read every chapter from the end to the front, a paragraph at a time, scrolling it down the screen.
Wow.
And I read the chapters out of order as well.
That's very important.
And that's to make sure that there aren't any errors. I mean, nothing is error-free 100%, but to catch as many things as possible.
Yeah.
Storyline
and continuity,
and continuity, and just sometimes just plain grammar, because the worst thing an editor can do is actually get wrapped up in the story. Because then I start missing the fact that there's a couple, and it's my job to make sure the verb tense is, to use a very basic idea, that are correct. and it.
As a reader, you might skip that.
And you get into reader, you
yeah.
know, and the story's compelling, and so you do get it does catch you, and then you have to catch yourself and go back and you know. So the last read through was literally from back to front on each chapter, and the chapters out of order, trying to make sure that everything was making sense. And,
but
I don't know how many times I
don't know either. I mean, it's a lot. To tell you how difficult it is, I actually did a calculation, Theresia, that if you make 4 errors per 100 pages for a 560-page book, if you make 4 errors, you know, a punctuation mistake, a grammar mistake, a spelling mistake, a continuity error, if you make 4 every 100 pages, your chances of producing a perfect 560-page book is 1 in 10 billion.
Wow.
If you make 3 errors every 100 pages, it's 1 in 25 million. So the one thing that I underestimated, and I will admit this, is the degree of difficulty of trying to produce something that is good, maybe very good. Hopefully it's great. The audience will determine that, not me. But I think that you know, I've said it before on the show that Bono said, U2's Bono said, the difference between something that's very good and great is huge. And I kind of get a sense of that now, of how hard it is to produce something that's great, that's perfect. I don't know if I've done it. I don't know if Murray and I have done it, or with your help and others, but that's what we're trying to do.
So as an editor and as a writer, there was a lot of back and forth between you two. Were there any struggles with that? Because I know there was a lot of, okay, let's cut this out and then give it back to the editor, and it's, no, we're adding this back, and then it's, okay, we're cutting this out and we're adding this back. So was there any struggle with that? As an editor, do novelists sometimes just give it to you and just see the final copy, or is it normal to go?
Oh no, gosh, no. Writers, you know, secretly, I think writers are very paranoid that editors are going to steal their book. not in the physical sense, but they're going to say they're going to have these, you know, changes and that you quote have to do. So there's always a tension there, and it's a good tension. It's a creative tension. It's not a bad tension at all. And I think Bruce and I worked pretty well in that respect. There were things that that I insisted that get rewritten because I thought that it was important in the context, and you know, and to a certain extent they were, or there were things that explanatory things for the next, you know, for the next volume 2, or in some cases 3, and you just go back and forth, and
let me add to that. I mean, some things that kinds of uses of language that I use that maybe Murray wasn't familiar with. So some words that he just wouldn't know, that they're part of the jargon, the engineering or science jargon, and so some of that, you know, he corrected, then I correct the corrections, and you know, I used a word like programmer, right? That's kind of like the brother programmer fraternity is kind of a male thing, right? And you know, Murray looks at programmer and says, oh, he means programmer. No, I meant programmer, because it's a very specific use of the term in that particular part of the novel. So there's some of that went on. But I would say out of the edits that Murray did, if he did, you know, 1,000 edits, it was probably more than 1,000, but, you know, whatever, out of 1,000, I would have accepted between 700 and 800 of them, but not all of them.
And that's normal.
It goes back and forth. It is back and forth, and and there's also, and I would, from time to time, I gave Bruce suggestions. I know
there were good ones too. Well, like for example, on the Airbus, that one of our characters owns an Airbus, and you know, you said, look, we got to. This is 50 years from now, or 40 years from now, we've got to change the Airbus number. It's got to be a new aircraft. So I mean, just things like that. Murray would pick up.
I was thinking of the scene in the. Because I don't know how much. Do we give any plot away here?
A little bit.
We'll give you a tidbit.
Right.
It's a scene in a Mayan cave in Central America.
Be careful.
And we did some rewriting there.
Yes, we did.
Because I saw things that I thought could, you know, as an editor, as somebody who follows the story or follows the storyline, I thought, you know, there's things that could be, you know, and we basically rewrote that. You know, page and a half. added some dialogue. I added some dialogue as an idea for you. You edited my ads and embellished and added more, and we made the scene work. And that's where that's a back and forth.
You mentioned
500 words or 500 pages, I should say. It's
it's heavy lifting.
It's heavy lifting.
If you just referring to that scene there, our cast of characters, some of them end up in a Central American republic where they have a spiritual experience, but it also an amazing. They discover something that's amazing, will have profound impact on their world. I think that we would leave it there because that is a central question for that will go right through book 2 and book 3. But it does speak to the fact that quantum entity, we are all one, became not just the 5 themes. A 6th theme appeared. Some spirituality was introduced to it, and I think that's really important. I think people today, whether they're starting for-profit businesses, they're starting not-for-profits, charities, NGOs. I think that there's a real feeling out there that people want authenticity, and I really wanted to give people a sense of you are there, you are part of something bigger than yourself. I wanted to take my turn in answering the big questions. Are we alone? What is the purpose of life? And I know that sounds a little bit like I'm reaching, but it is a trilogy. It's going to be 1,600 or 1,700 pages, assuming I live long enough to finish it.
You will.
And thank you. And it's my attempt to try and reach out and answer some of the big questions in life. Theresia, you're organizing this gala that we have coming up next month, and I want the listeners to know a little bit about it. Explorium.org is hosting a gala at the National Gallery of Canada on June 20th called Artifacts. I really want that to be a night of enchantment and magic for people. We're going to have 30 professional artists there at the National Gallery. It'll be a chance for people to come, get something to eat. There will feed folks. There'll be some amazing music by Carl Bray, one of Canada's great composers. 8 Seconds, and Andres Del Castillo will be there. Chris Bridges, my friend, will be there with some magical music of his own. So we'll have some live music. And then we have a special treat for people. Young Janek Alford, architect, artist, filmmaker, has produced a film. Short film, 22 minutes long approximately, based on quantum entity, We Are All One, which I'm sure will be amazing. So we'll have the world premiere of the film. After that, we'll have some of the cast and crew on stage, some of these great young people doing a radio play. After that, you'll have to put up with an old guy on stage, me. I'll do a little short reading from the book. And then after that, it's just a party. So I wanted to recognize you, Theresia, and all the work that you and everybody else at Exploring are doing to make that happen, and also the work that Scott Williams is doing, and Colin Elliott at Ibero, the work that Murray has obviously done, and then, of course, Janek Alford and prototyped.org.
Yeah, that's June 20th at the National Gallery.
And Theresia, can you tell everybody where they can go to get tickets?
If you want to be a part of this evening, go to www.explorium.org/artifacts. So it's ARTIFEX. So it's the Professional Artist Gala, and there will be 30. We call them artpreneurs, artistic entrepreneurs, with their art. So it's a really great way to not only support the book and the movie, but also all of Ottawa's artists. So it's going to be a pretty
and it's a new annual event, because
new annual.
The concept here for the listener to know is that arts and artists contribute hugely to our community. If you want to build a great community, you can't just have all civil service workers or all public health workers or all teachers or, for that matter, all tech guys, men and women. Art and artpreneurs or professional artists, they contribute to the diversity and magic of life.
Yeah, and I really wanted to talk about the process after the writing.
Oh, gosh.
That is,
can we not?
I know. Saved it for the last few minutes here, but I've learned, and I think Bruce, you've learned, that the process after the actual writing and the editing is quite complicated. And a lot of work.
It's so much more difficult than I anticipated. Sharon gave me the bad news a year ago that the rewrite was important. Murray, of course, has been a huge component of the editing. Just document source control has been an incredible challenge. You've got our marketing agency, Ivero, working on it. We've got our cyberwitchpress.com, led by Heather Atkins, working on the formatting, both for the hard copy and also for all the e-copies. It will be available on the Kindle, the Kobo, the Nook, the Diesel Reader, the Sony Reader, the iPad, I mean, all these platforms. So between the work that you've been doing at Explorium, Ivero, cyberwitchpress.com, Murray McGregor, myself, just the source control for images and for all of the stuff has been beyond anything I have ever tried to do before, other than the Bring Back the Senators campaign. This has been the most difficult thing that I have attempted, in the last 20 years.
It is a complicated process, and I duck out here because I'm not a production editor, and that's for a very specific purpose, because production editing, which is the taking the final manuscript and then making it into an actual product, into a book, into an ebook, is a whole field to itself, and there are people who do that and do it very, very well, and it's I know what you went through from intellectually speaking, because I know the processes, but it's not something that I do, and I know a lot of other editors who will at some point you turn it over to a production editor who takes it through those phases, because it's its own little world and all sorts of wonderful things. Covers paper quality, paper size. I mean all those decisions, and with the ebook business now, it's there's no specific standard. So you've got Kindle and Nook and
all different platforms.
I think Moby's Kindle and
Kobo
and EPUB standard, which is on, I know it was on Kobo, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, I was thrilled. So how do you get a copy of Quantum Entity? Do you have a website we can go to, or?
Well, if I may borrow that iPhone back for a second, Teresa, we did get a question earlier on from Twitter, from at Limited Gaming, and he asked, Jeffrey asked, where do you go to get a copy of it? Can you come to explorium.org and get a copy of it? Officially, the answer is no. So I'll tell the listeners today, unofficially, you can get a proof copy if you come to explorium.org. So, Teresa, do you want to give the address?
Yep, it's 2525 Suite 23, Carling Avenue, and the postal code is K1.
It doesn't matter. Show up.
So, it's in the Lincoln Fields Mall.
So here's what I'll say.
Lincoln Fields Mall. That's the important.
Lincoln Fields Mall.
There you go. So we have a little business incubator at the Lincoln Fields Mall. It's a bit of a beat-up old mall, but there's plenty of parking. There's a big transitway station. Free parking, exactly, and it's easy to get to. So we have about 30 or 40 proof copies, and I tell everybody there's still lots of stuff that's going to be changed between now and publishing. If you want a proof copy, you can come and get one. And I said that having a proof copy isn't going to be better than the real thing. And they go, really? Why? There's some errors in it. And I said, well, it's like a stamp, right, or a coin that's misprinted. It might be a little bit more valuable. So it's a mule. So it's closer. You watched the film Dear John, right?
Oh, yeah. Of course, I'm a female.
You're a romantic.
This is valuable stuff. As a bookseller, and I was a bookseller for many years, I have a proof copy of John Grissom's first major novel.
Okay.
Wow.
And which I have kept in pristine condition.
Nice.
I won't tell people where I live, but because it still sits on the bookshelf there, and I wonder every now and then. This was I remember Doubleday published him, and in the late '80s, and I can remember this being sort of like, God, this stuff is really good. The sales rep saying to me, and you got to have this book, and then I'm going, yeah, right. Okay, here's a proof copy. And I really wonder now, what is that worth? How many copies were there out there?
There's probably not very many.
Of Grisham's first novel. And
if you want to help us, you can certainly find Theresia on Twitter at TCL Scholtes on Twitter, or you can come to the incubator at 2525 Carly Avenue, Suite 23, exploring.org, and we're happy to share those proof copies. I mean, you're more than welcome to have them. The other thing that you can do is, if you want the real deal, on June 20th, you can go to www.brucemfirestone.com, and you can get an e-copy, Theresia. I think it's $9.95 for any platform, pretty much.
Advanced. You can do the advance order actually today.
Yeah, you can do the advance order. So you can go to brucemfirestone.com, and I think it's $9.95.
Yeah.
Canadians have to add HST. Americans and others do not. So it's just $9.95, and you'll get it on June 20th or shortly thereafter. If you want a hard copy, I think it's $16.95. Delivery is atrocious. We use UPS or Canada Post. It adds a bunch of money to it, but you can get a hard copy for $16.95 plus shipping.
Yeah. So you've mentioned this is one of three in the trilogy.
Yeah.
So when are you writing book 2? You've storyboarded it.
Yeah, I have. Well,
print the first chapter.
Well, that's right. I should.
Yes.
Our marketing agency, Ivero, asked me to give everybody who bought an advance copy or gets a proof copy a bonus. So in the copies, the e-copy as well. I think both the e-copy and the hard copy, the paperback. There's a bonus chapter. Chapter 1 of Book 2. So Book 2 is called Quantum Entity American Spring, and Book 3 is called Quantum Entity The Successors. Yeah, exactly. So the plan is I'm going to write Book 2 this summer, and here's something that was really amazing. I just enjoy telling this story. Murray was saying to me, when we're going to launch Book 1, obviously here in Ottawa at the National Gallery on June 20th, but Murray was saying to me, we ought to launch Book 2 at, someplace really cool, and he said, why don't we launch it next March at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. And when he said that to me, my jaw dropped, because I said, Murray, have you read Chapter 1 of Book 2? He said, no. I said, the entire book, Chapter 1 of Book 2 is set in Austin, Texas. So we thought of the same thing at the same time. And so we're going to take 36 people from Ottawa, from the tech community, from the artistic community, and we're going to go to South by Southwest in Austin next March. And that is maybe one of the world's leading venues for music, for film, and for technology. It's an amazing event. So we're going to launch Book 2 in 2013 there, and then Book 3 sometime in 2014.
So you're going to write it this summer?
I have to, and now that I know how long it takes after you write it to actually finish it, I better get on it.
Are you excited to write it?
It's a bit scary, really, because the amount of physical and mental energy that goes into it is and I am 60. That's not an excuse, but you do notice it. Being 60 is a bit older than being 50 or 40 or your age, 20 something, or Murray's age, whatever that might be. Don't say. So it is a bit of a challenge, but that's one of the reasons why I retired from the university, so I could do more of this.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to give any hints for Book 2 or Book 3?
Sure.
But buy an advance copy. You get Chapter 1.
You can get Chapter 1. But what I am writing about, is some of the themes that go into the work that I've done now for 30 years. My PhD, Theresia, is in urban economics and urban development from the Australian National University in Canberra. And one of the things that I think has hurt the American empire has been the fact that their cities are highly segregated. And I'm not talking about racial segregation, I'm talking about economic segregation, which can lead to racial segregation, but is not necessarily related to that, where you have people living in gated communities with good roads and good services and sound police and lots of job opportunities, and then you have people outside those gated universes in cities like Philadelphia and Detroit and many others, where these are unsafe places and there's just no opportunity and the services don't work. And we do things in Ontario. For example, our Planning Act forbids people from building gated communities. Our Planning Act does not allow it, and I think that's wise. So in Book 2, American Spring, Ellen Brooks, who's this incredibly strong character, and is from a business background, she will be thrust into more of a leadership role. And how do you rebuild cities? How do you rebuild an economy that's experiencing some difficulty? So that is a big theme in Book 2.
Wow. Okay, so let's just recap a little bit. If you want to get an advanced copy, you go to www.brucemfirestone.com. It's a really well done site as well by Ibero marketing team. And if you want to attend the first annual Artifacts Professional Artist Gala, that's at explorium.org/artifacts. And there's going to be a lot of really awesome things going on this evening, including the short film from Quantum Entity produced by Jenik Alford and his team at Prototype D. And hopefully we'll stay tuned for Book 2 and get some phone calls after this show for Book 1, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Murray and Bruce.
Thank you very much.
Murray McGregor, and your website is, how do people get in touch with you?
Through my full name, which is Murray Rob Roy McGregor .ca.
Can you spell McGregor?
McGregor, it's spelled with a C, M-C-G. But I also bought the MAC version of the
no way.
Yes. And because when you're a Mac in this world, you just MC, MAC, it never gets, the confusion never gets sorted out. So either way, MurrayRobRoyMcGregor.ca.
Great.
So anything else to add, Theresia? Are we done in time yet?
I think we're good. We have about a minute.
Should use it, I think, to, if you don't mind, Theresia, I would like to just thank some of the people that I should thank, if that's okay.
Definitely.
I mean, I had so many people who helped me with this novel. I mean, people went out of their way to assist me. I want to thank the people at Carleton University in the physics department there who helped me with some of the quantum physics. I wanted to recognize my PhD supervisor, Dr. Neutzer, who is no longer with us, but Dr. Neutzer he was tough on me, he was hard on me, but he said to me, Bruce, the first million words are the toughest.
Okay.
And I said, wow. And he made me a better writer. He forced me to be a better writer, and I wanted to recognize for me. I've already recognized what Heather Atkins at Cyberwitch Press has done, and there's so many other experts. My friend Morley O'Neill from the Sudbury Neutrino Observatory. I mean, there were hundreds of people who helped.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, guys, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.